in your respective precincts.
Okay, so it's there. Good.
Will the town meeting members please take their seats? I'm asking for a quorum count. Precinct 1. Precinct 1 is 9. Precinct 2. Precinct 2 is 16. Precinct 3. Precinct 3 is 12. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 is 16. Precinct 5, 13. Wait a minute. Precinct 3 is 13. Precinct 4 is 16. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 is 10. Precinct 6. Precinct 6 is 14. Do we have a problem? I can't hear, I can hear everything out there but what the people are supposed to be saying. Precinct 7. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 is 14. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 is 10. Yes? Precinct 6 has 15. I will declare the numbers. I'll just repeat them. 9, 16, 13, 16. How long do we wait? I can't hear. How many? There are 104 town meeting members present. Will you please? There are 104 town meeting members present. There is a quorum. Will you please rise and join me in saluting the flag of the United States? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There's a brief bit of formalities, something that is normally done at the beginning, not closer to the end of town meeting, but the moderator has made his statement of certification for the 2014 annual town meeting on May 5, 2014. The moderator has reviewed the proceedings of the election of town meeting and caucuses, the standing committees, and other relevant town boards which are required to file reports and related documents to conform to general laws, town charter, and the bylaws of the town of Stoughton. The report is divided into sections regarding town meeting committee members, standing committee membership. I would like to make special note to those people who conveniently and answered the alarm on the 16th and 17th of April, who filled 20 seats at a caucus. And that was done on very short notice. The warrant closing, committee assignments and elections at town meeting. There were 2 meetings, respectively, by the Rules Committee after the warrant closed on December 31st, and January 13th, the Rules Committee met, and February 12th to assign articles for their hearings. The advertisings were done in conformance, and there were a couple extra hearings and notices that were required because of some problems in scheduling. Public hearings and attendance. Most all the committees had suitable attendance except for one at the public hearings. That is important material if you're on a committee. I remind you to try to make every effort to attend or contact the chairman of the committee so we know where you are. I will note that the planning board held on April 14 an additional public hearing with unidentified articles related to flood hazard zoning, abandonment and moratorium on medical dispensaries, as advertised in the Journal on March 28th. Lacking proper identification of these specific warrant articles in the advertising raises question about the validity of this advertising being in compliance with the statutes. I'm in the middle of reading this. I will recognize you after I am done. I will recognize Mr. Soares after I finish this reading. This is required notification. Then somebody's got to control the volume up on this. I hear the echo. That's all I'm getting. That's my paw. Reports and records. Minutes of the hearings and meetings, including reports of the rules, intergovernmental relations, municipal operations, municipal regulations, town meeting charter review have been compiled by the clerk of the town meeting committees. The reports of these committees have been printed in the Finance Committee along with the reports and recommendations. Those persons elected at the May 6th caucus were issued at the caucus. This complies with the charter requirement of delivery of not less than 14 days of the report to the town meeting committee members. Except for those printed in the Finance Committee report, the moderator has not reviewed reports from the Planning Board other than the statements that were made and published in the report and read into the records. The CPC reports have been included with the Finance Committee report. There are specific legal and procedural issues on 2 or 3 articles that are noted by the moderator's records, and unless otherwise noted in the records of any individual article, the procedures for this town meeting have been complied with, and I hereby sound this town meeting is order. I will make one notation that I am still looking for a copy of the constable's return to be added to this report that I can expect will be given and filed with the town clerk. I know it has been filed, so. And I have to, today is June 23rd. Mr. Soares, you have a question about the proceedings of town meeting before we get into? While you're coming up, Mr. Soares, every precinct chairman has received a packet. On one side, there is the schedule of sessions. There's also a pink copy coming around. And the other is when we do the recap of the budget article. Mr. Soares.
Mr. Moderator, I'm having a very difficult time hearing you. Maybe you're not as close to the mic as you should be. I don't know, sir. But I do know one thing, that I can hear you clearly sometimes, and sometimes you fade away. So please help me out. Thank you.
Okay. I will try to do my best to do that. Now, Mr. Cohn. I will address that information. Mr. Cohn, you've
I
asked...
would like to address the body on a pamphlet that was...
Mr. Cohn,
Yes.
I told you that I would address that issue because I've had a consultation with town council.
No, this is another thing.
Is it directly with town meeting business?
Yes, yes.
Something in the warrant?
No, it's, what it is, Mr. Moderator, is we're all volunteers. And people shouldn't be going to people's place of work and handing out brochures saying different things. I didn't have this printed out, it's here. And we're all volunteers, we might not all agree, but when you cross the line and go to someone's business and hand this stuff out, something should be said. And I'm not even going to mention the person's name. I have it here, I'll leave it at the front table, you can read it. People sign this, and of course they denied they did it, but every one of us think differently, we respect each other's thoughts, and I don't think anyone should go to anyone's business to pass out flyers. It happened to be at a Boston Public Schools, inside a building, and I think that's terrible. And I hope this will never happen again. This is not with this body, it's in general, if someone disagrees, shouldn't go there this far to do something like this. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll leave it right here with the town manager, and you want to read it, you can.
It's been brought to my attention, and I'll make this very clear, on the distribution of material on town meeting. I'll remind you that this table up front in this auditorium is only for the conduct of our business relating to what is going on in town meeting. It is proper courtesy, and I've had to make this clear many times before in the past, the tables outside this auditorium are public. However, the space is reserved primarily for official business of town meeting, such as, but there can be related community interest material out there. I have requested in the past that if it's non-town meeting business of just general community information, it can be put on another table, not with town business. This is, I know town meeting is a forum for the public, but we have official business to do with governing our own community. It is not my job, nor anybody else's in this room, to be censuring any distribution of material. But if it's improper, not identified, and not of direct community interest, we reserve the right to remove it from that table. We cannot comment on it. Anything that is not put up on this table related to town meeting, I do not have to honor it, neither does anybody up on this table or down there. That's why we have the public hearings to handle the official business of town meeting. I know this stuff gets away every so often, that we have other information that strays into town meeting. We have official business to do, and that should be the end of that discussion. Now, just to follow up, we have a few items still left on the table. They've been shown on both the pink sheet and the white sheets that came around. That is basically what we've got left. There's no sense in me repeating that. I will mention that on a June 18th session, we covered in the budget items 29, 30, I'm going to call them by page numbers, but that's what they are, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, procurement, I just using that, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, conservation, 44, 45, selectmen, 46, human resources, 47, engineering, 78, schools, and I'm going to make a recommendation because we are still on the school budget. We should also consider taking page number 77, regional school budgets, after we complete the school education budget. Now, some things have been also out of order, so that would be, we also have done, I just remind you that we've gone to engineering, and then after we've done the education material, we will continue from 48 on, page 48, which is the Finance Committee budget. The rule here is that I announce the page number and what the title of the account is. The chairman of the Finance Committee will read off the dollar amount to make sure that we all have the same numbers working with. Mr. Gito, do you have a question?
I have a point of information.
Yes.
There are 26 items to consider each of the budget items separately, and we have 150 minutes. That's about 6 minutes per item.
Good point.
I hope we can get through this tonight.
I think that would be appropriate that we say that we will strive to do no more than 5 minutes on an article or department, unless it's absolutely necessary. In other words, the way to save a little time, don't get up and repeat that you agree or disagree with someone that's already brought it out. So thank you for the pointing it out, Mr. Gito. We will now begin with Department 78, page 78, Education. Mr. Hill, on the original amount for the education budget.
$41,030,150.
Okay, and before one other thing, now we got, all those in favor of taking this off the table?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you. 803. Is there any discussion on the school department budget not related to any of the proceedings that happened in the prior session? Mr. Soros?
This is the school budget now, is that correct?
Yes?
Okay.
On page 78.
What's the definition? Wiki's definition of school is an institution for educating children. The Stoughton school system is a great institution. I believe in the teachers who run the schools. I believe in their determination, their zeal, their energy, but most of all, their love of the children who they nurture with knowledge and infuse them with their desires. These teachers I want to maintain for Stoughton so that they can pass on their experience and their love for Stoughton's institution. I was giving out diplomas to the future leaders of our society. I pray and hope that God looks favorably upon them. They have been given the best of what Stoughton has to offer. We Stoughton, I'm sorry.
Mr. Soros,
Yes, sir.
are you making a speech to us on behalf of the school committee or making something? We really want to direct most of our comments to directly with the items in the budget, and that's dollar amount, unless you're making a reference to something that we haven't had happen yet.
I'm sorry. I thought we were voting on the school budget, and I wanted to give a little speech on that. Thank you.
Well, if it's not on the dollar amount, if you believe that the dollar amount is satisfactory or needs explanation, that this is the time to do it. But I think, in all fairness to everybody in this room, we all agree that somewhere we need to fund our town departments, and we hope they do the best job.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Urel. You're in a you're a bad spot for a target. Dr. Rizzi, do you wish to have any comments?
Good evening, members of town meeting. Mr. Moderator, I don't have a prepared presentation, as I said the other night. I'm happy to answer any questions. There were a lot of comments and a lot of conversation about the budget the other night. So I'm not going to take any of your time except to address issues that you would like me to speak on.
Mr. Murphy? Move the question. That's to cut off debate. On the motion to cut off debate, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries to cut off debate. On the motion, which is to appropriate $41,030,150 for the Stoughton School education budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I will declare it unanimous.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We who work for the Stoughton Public Schools will continue to do our very, very best for you.
As a suggestion, I need a motion to take up Article 7, page number 77, regionals. On the motion to take that out of order, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That's unanimous. And that's 808. On the amount, I'll read the statement. Number 77, regional schools, Mr. Hill.
$1,451,542.50.
No, don't do that. There's somebody, is there any further discussion on the regional school? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. We now go to Department 48. 48. Finance Committee budget.
$267,200.
From page 48. We don't have account numbers, so if I refer to an account number, it's also the page number. Is there any discussion on the Finance Committee's budget? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion is carried, unanimous. Department, or page number 49, Historical Commission. Mr. Hill.
$800.
Is there any discussion? There being no discussion on the amount of $800 for the Historical Commission, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. I see that we have an item on 49 MBTA. There is no money in that, so is there any reason why I'd have to take a vote on that? Okay, fine, that's, all those in favor of, on the MBTA account, which has no money in it, that means we didn't appropriate any money, not to be confused. All those in favor of the budget as is with no money?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's voted. Page 50, Police Department. Mr. Hill.
$5,446,276.95.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Page 52, Crossing Guards.
$97,901.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. And don't be afraid to slow me down if I get too fast. Ah, you heard that all right, didn't you? Page 53, Civilian Dispatches.
$340,044.11.
Is that 11? Okay, I had something else. Might have made it 60 cents more. Any discussion? On the motion for $340,044.11 for the civilian dispatches, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Department, page 53, Auxiliary Police. It says here in my notation that that has been moved to another budget, so it's just in there. If anybody believes it, we should take a vote on that. Okay, thank you. No vote. It isn't necessary, it's just because if it's in there for information only. Department 54, Fire and Rescue Department, Mr. Hill.
$4,947,366.81.
Any discussion on the fire department? Mr. Smith.
Since we're going so fast, I figured I'd slow it down.
Okay.
This won't take long.
I'm going to start with Mr. Gito's number. I'm going to give you 6 minutes.
Okay. All right, I see a line item in here that talks about an event slide item. What is that? An event slide item has been added for $8,500. What is that?
Chief Doloff.
That's the amount of money we spend for details for public events. 4th of July, say the East Egg Hunt, if they request a paramedic or an ambulance on scene.
Like the kids thing on Saturday?
Exactly.
So,
We've always spent that money. It was just requested that we put that in the budget this year as a separate item.
So you can account for it.
The town meeting realized that that's how much we spend on community events.
okay, and the capital outlay expense, $10,000?
I'm sorry?
The capital outlay expense for $10,000.
That was typically, it's got to do with dehumidification systems. Typically, we wouldn't put that in the budget. It would appear somewhere else, but it was requested town manager to put it in the budget this year.
Where would it appear if it didn't appear in the budget?
It would be an article.
For 10,000, okay. And so these were put in because they were built on swamps, is that right?
Actually, that land was farmed at one time and had cornfields there. If anyone's been in town a long time, they knew that.
And the cattails don't count?
That would be behind the, but that's
Well,
not
Station
anything about-
Station 1 was built on a lake.
I have no idea.
That was before your time. All right. The pro forma budget between 13 and 14 has been changed. How was it changed?
It's got to do with the elimination of the enterprise account for the ambulance. So we rolled all those line items into these line items. So there's one budget now, there's a fire rescue budget.
Okay.
There's no longer a separate budget in the book to do the ambulance enterprise account.
Okay?
So all the salaries, the expenses,
Are all in one?
All in
instead of-
one.
Instead of yours being split 50/50, it's now all in 101?
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any- There's only been one speaker. There being no, on the motion, which is to appropriate $4,947,366.81 for the Fire and Rescue Department. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I will declare it a vote as unanimous. Department 56, Building and Code Enforcement, 300,841,000. No, wait a minute. Wait. I got a period in the wrong place here. $300,841.78. I remember one time they only rounded these numbers up or down. Any discussion? Rick, will you verify that I have the right number here?
That's verified.
Okay. Any discussion on the building department? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Department, page 57, Animal Control. Mr. Hill.
$71,719.81.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Department 58, or page 58, DPW, General and Highway. Mr. Hill.
$1,235,313.63.
Any discussion? Mr. Smith.
The out-of-grade wages were added for $30,000. Where is that reflected?
Mr. Batchelder?
Here?
That's contractual. If I have positions that haven't been filled yet, or someone that's out on long-term vacation or whatever, and somebody has to fill in, that's
So
what,
they'd be paid higher wages out of grade? They wouldn't be paid lower wages, obviously.
that's correct.
So it's just if they have to fill in for somebody that's higher
If they have to
rated.
fill in for somebody that's in a higher grade.
All right. You have two laborer positions now that haven't been filled?
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Did I hear somebody? No. On the motion, which is for the DPW General and Highway, $1,235,313.63. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it's unanimous. Page 60, snow removal. Mr. Hill.
$245,615.
Any discussion on snow removal? Mr. Cohn. No snow jobs now.
How much actually did we spend on snow removal this year? I think it's
Mr.
much
Batchelor.
more than $245,000.
It is.
Mr. Batchelder? Mr. Rowe?
Mr. Moderator, to date, we have spent $799,462.41.
What was that number again, Bill?
We had a lot of snow.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Cohen?
well spent. And I want to compliment the Public Works for an excellent job on a terrible winter. Thank you.
Any further discussion on snow? All those in favor of the amount of $245,615 for snow removal, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Page 61, highway construction. Mr. Hill.
$404,400.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of $404,400 for highway construction, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Department, page 62, sanitation. Mr. Hill.
$1,541,759.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 63, street lighting. Mr. Hill.
$306,000.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 63, municipal fuel depot. Mr. Hill.
$35,000.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 64, Board of Health. Mr. Hill.
$160,370.64.
Any discussion? Mr. Smith. Well, if you want to sit up front.
I noticed that the FTEs were changed from 1 to 3 on this one. This is we were told that there was an increase of 2 people in the town on this budget. Is this the increase in 2 people?
I see the FTEs changing from 2 to 3.
I have 1 to 3. All right. Okay.
Yeah, so just to,
There was 1 in this department in town meeting, according to the note. There was 1 in this department, and now there's 3.
I know.
And it's Brennan, B-R-I-N-I-N-G, up to 3, FTE up to 3. So that's an increase of 2.
So last year at town meeting, the town meeting approved an additional position, not this year, last year, and it was to be paid for out of fees. So that's why the department got up to 2. The third person was added this year as a part of the reorganization. That was a staff person up on the 3rd floor in the town hall, and their salary was moved down to this department. They had partial responsibility already for the Board of Health. They just now are fully allocated to that department.
So there's actually only an increase of 1 in this department.
Actually, this year, there's no increase in this department. It's just a reallocated person moving from one area to the other. It's now a total of 3 people in that department, so. I understand what you're thinking, that last year it was 2, this year it's 3. And so there is a third person, but it's just its existing salary.
Okay, I guess that's as best an answer as I can get. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the Board of Health? There being no further discussion on the amount of $160,370.64 for the Board of Health, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 65, Veterans Services. Mr. Hill.
$670,293.
Is there any further discussion? Did I hear somebody? Oh, well, don't say no, because that makes it discussion. All those in favor of six, all those opposed, the motion carries. Page 65, cemeteries and soldiers. And it's a notation that now previously was a separate item and is now included in the Veteran Services budget. That's only for information. '66, Council on Aging. Mr. Hill.
Pardon me, Mr. Moderator.
It's all right, page 66.
Council on Aging, $403,344.08.
Any discussion on the Council on Aging? Mr. Smith.
Again, we're talking FTEs. It says it moves from 9.5 to 11.5. Is this reflected in actual people, or is this just a moving around of budget?
The grants.
Mr. Hartman.
It's actual people. What has happened in the past is that people that were paid for by grants were never listed in the budget. Starting this year, we listed them in the budget
All right.
and then subtracted them at the
Okay.
end. So it starts at 9.5, moves up to 11.15, and then goes back to 9.5. But we're showing the full number of people that are assigned to that department, regardless of how they're paid for.
And what's a SMASH grant? SAMHSA grant?
So the SAMHSA grant is what pays for the OASIS Coalition, so SAMHSA, Substance Abuse, Mental Health, whatever the acronym is from the federal government.
That's a federal grant that comes in to pay for these people that aren't on budget?
Correct. We're in year 7 of a 10-year grant.
We're in year 7 of a 10-year? So these people are employees, but they're being paid by the federal government, or partially?
Well, the town gets in $125,000 a year for 10 years, and that pays their salary, their fringe, all of those things.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
On the second to the last line of that budget, you'll see where the grant funding number is actually.
Okay. On the amount of $403,344.08 for the Council on Aging, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 67, Youth Commission. Mr. Hill.
$238,617.37.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 68, Public Library. Mr. Hill.
$1,015,669.39.
Mr. Murphy?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the head librarian, this may and may not be related. Where do we stand on the grant of the money for the new library?
Mrs. Bassler?
Thank you for asking. 2 years ago, we were 30th on the list, now we're 5th. We're hoping that after July 1st, when the governor's budget gets signed, they're hopefully putting in another $150 million into the bond bill. They could call us as early as July 2nd and say, get going on the final phase and move forward.
Thank you.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the amount of $1,015,669.39, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 69, Recreation. Mr. Hill.
$209,218.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 70, Community Events. Mr. Hill.
$39,680.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 70, Parks. Mr. Hill.
$52,250.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of $52,250 for Parks budget, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion carries. Page 71. Now, I have a question. I have two different numbers here now. That's why I'm raising this issue on a couple of these enterprise funds account. When we did it under Article 6, it was $268,248.72. And I see a number here on page 71, the $309,866.72. What is, Mr. Rowe, what is this?
Mr. Moderators, we vote the indirect costs as part of the general fund allocation, so when we vote the budget for the enterprise, we generally don't include the indirect costs. That's voted as part of the, because it's not really, they're not spending money outside the town, it's transferred to the general fund. So when we vote, we admit the indirect costs. That should be the difference.
Now, are these still supposed to be two separate numbers? So that we're not.
If you subtract out the 41,638, we should get to the number that we voted on. That's how we've done it for, last 10 years.
In the past, we've only done one number.
When we voted the enterprise budgets, 2 through 6, we just vote we omit the indirect costs.
This has got me.
So we don't double appropriate, so.
So do we need to vote on this? Or?
No.
So when we did Article 6?
Yep.
So this is for information only?
Correct.
Is that the same with the visiting nurse?
Same with the other 3, yes. Mm-hmm.
That's only for information.
Correct.
and that's the water. I'm looking at Articles 8 and 9. Those are also for information only.
That's correct, yep.
Wow. Does that conclude everything we have in the budget? I know that. Bring your question up now, because I've come to the last page of,
I figured that. I'd like to know what they brought in last year for revenue, please.
who?
Cedar Hill Golf Course, last year.
Please go through the chair if you have an answer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator. He was trying to take your job, Mr. Moderator. Name is Hartman. He gave me the number of 245,000, Mr. Moderator. Is that true? Yeah, just curious.
I will have to defer that question to,
I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator.
Mrs. Carrara, from your notes, will you give the answer? Well, and since it's an accountant's question, he's probably better explaining. And Mr.
I'll have that number for you, Mr. Moderator.
So far this year? Okay.
Cedar Hill budget is on page 4, by the way.
You're asking how much came in money from,
10 minutes.
see,
Page 4? I'm sorry.
Mr. Cohen,
Yes,
you asked that question
it's on page 4, Mr. It was told.
at a prior session when we were doing the Cedar Hill Enterprise Fund budget on
Yeah.
Article 6. The amount was how much came in last year, that was your question. And fiscal year 2013, they received $183,951.07.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Pretty close. That was
Mr. Gator.
14.
On the,
Misread it.
did we discuss the sewer department? Did I miss it? And I just have a very quick question on the sewer department.
I just asked a question whether this, there were two different,
My question is, have we discussed it yet? Or are we just
we
voting
have
on the
something
budget?
on page 22 and we have something on page 75. I think, so I'm going to allow that. You're asking, are you asking on the sewer department on page 75?
Yes.
All right, that's the page I'm on. Now, what is your question, Mr. Gator?
I can ask it then. Through you to Mr. Batchelor, I don't see anything in here on there, what we've had a very successful program for I&I. Do we still have that program going on, John? And do we still get money from the state on it?
Separate article.
Oh, we still have that program. There was an article that, I had an article for 300,000 for that.
But it's not in your budget, it's just a
No, it's
straight
not in the
article,
budget.
it's
It's
not
a
in the
separate
budget.
article.
Thank you.
Mr. Murphy? I just read the answer he wanted to know.
Yeah, Cedar Hill budget was Article number 6 on page 21 that we voted at the very front end of town meeting. So the detail in the back is just the operating budget detail.
That is kind of confusing.
Well, then it's been confusing for 30 years.
No, we already, basically, the explanation the town accountant was that these numbers here were with, had some difference between indirect costs and direct costs, and that is in there for information only regarding 73, 74, and 75. Is there any? So, is there any further discussion on the budget or any items in the budget? Now, you have a piece of paper that came around that says closing motion on the budget article. Mr. Rowe, are there any changes from this number? There are no changes. Isn't that nice? We don't have to write anything. It is basically, I'll have the, I will restate, this is the number. Everything matches. There's been made no changes on the floor in any of this information. There was nothing adjusted. We changed nothing, right?
Right.
Okay. Then, on the main motion for the budget, which was this is Ayers. You want to, go ahead. This is before we do any further on the budget, because this is
Precinct 3,
last
Donna
call.
Ayers. I'd like to know what the comparable number was for last year. With, in light of that, the numbers have been rearranged and everything else, what was the actual number for the town budget for last year, please? Thank you.
Mr. Rowe.
Because this number's exact.
Mr. Moderator, the current general fund budget is $76,341,448.
Could you repeat that again?
$76,341,448.
No. Okay. You got a lot of... Any further questions regarding this before we make that final motion? And the motion was to appropriate $81,231,237.87 for the maintenance and support of the several departments of the town, and that such sum be expended only for the purposes described, and further that to meet this appropriation, $78,189,944 be raised. $1,716,046.87 transferred from free cash. $100,000 transferred from the assessor's overlay. $47,500 transferred from Title V receipts. $3,811 transferred from the Cedar Hill Fund retained earnings. $37,827 transferred from fiscal year 15 Cedar Hill revenue. $214,327 transferred from Public Health Fund retained earnings. $351,033 transferred from the Sewer Fund retained earnings, and $570,749 transferred from the Water Fund retained earnings. That's that. I hear the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, I will declare unanimous. It is now 8:46. Now, once.
Motion to take Article 13 off the table. Second.
Give me 1 second, and you're taking it off, I'm putting it back on. A big load here. All right.
Article 13. I thought he dismissed it.
Article 13, Mr. Hill. Well, actually, this goes to the town manager.
Correct.
On the motion to take it off the table first.
Yeah,
All those in favor of taking off the table, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries to take it off the table. Ms. Walsh.
Cynthia Walsh, Precinct 2, motion to dismiss?
No.
No.
No,
Well,
no.
Then give me a motion. Somebody is saying no. I haven't got a motion here.
I have it.
Does everybody have a copy of the motion for this? Right now, there is no motion, no positive motion for this. This is now,
Mr. Moderator, I move that we appropriate $44,883.60 for Article 13. 44883.60.
now, when did you have this information and this number, Mr. Hartman? Has the contract, did we have this information prior to 15 minutes ago?
The information was given to the Finance Committee, I believe, last Thursday.
Last Thursday. That is pretty much a lot more time, and there's been no communication with anybody. This is why I'm a little irritated, and probably the rest of this
Mr. Moderator,
board
if I might clarify, this contract has not been settled, neither has the Public Works contract. If you'll recall, last year, town meeting adopted a personnel bylaw and a compensation plan. These two contracts were being negotiated, and as a result of those negotiations, the steps that were in the old contract were not included in the 15 budgets because it was assumed those budgets or these contracts would be approved and submitted to town meeting in a timely manner. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So the purpose is to add in the amounts that should have been in the budget to begin with.
Well, we just concluded voting on the budget.
Pardon?
We just concluded voting on the budget.
There is an actual settlement agreement between the two parties. And this would fund the settlement agreement.
Now, my next question. It was given to the Finance Committee. Has the Finance Committee reviewed this? And I'm going to defer that before I go.
You would have to ask them. That my hunch is no, it's not been presented to the full committee. It was given to the chairman and the vice chair.
That's correct, and there was no meeting held to discuss this, or really no time to distribute.
Mr. Cole.
In 37 years of being a town meeting member, this is the worst. How do you present a budget to the Finance Committee on a Thursday? How do you get a quorum together to even look at it? And you want us to vote this tonight? I make a motion, we disapprove this, and let's come back to a special town meeting. And you know something? This budget here, I hope we got to listen. 2 months to go through a budget. 2 months. And we're supposed to shorten this budget up. We didn't shorten anything up. The hidden stuff in this budget is a disgrace. People being shuffled halfway there. They took Public Works water budget. It's at Town Hall now. We know nothing. And it's about time, and I give the town meeting a compliment for asking questions. Thank God. We'll have this stuff come out. This budget is an absolute disgrace. And if it comes like this again, every night, new information. A previous speaker in Precinct 4, a colleague brought this up. How do you understand anything? We jumped this budget 20 times. It's a miracle we even passed the budget. But this is the lowest tonight to come with a thing of $44,000. Are you crazy to vote this? Turn it down and make them come back and then ask them what's in that budget. And if they refuse to give you any information, vote it down.
Mr. Recupero.
I appreciate the sentiments of the gentleman. There was a full months and months of analysis through this budget. So the budget itself has been fully vetted. As to these steps are employee step raises. Excuse me, this amount is employee step raises. We're going to do this for all of them. Am I right? You'll notice those articles are for funding collective bargaining. We have negotiation going on. We presumed, or we had hoped, that we would get through contracts, we would fully fund those. What we have to do is we have to fund the steps pursuant to the prior contract term. If we don't do this,
Don't interrupt, mister.
you'll have just as many disgruntled employees, I would say, as you do now. From all the comments I've been hearing about settle contracts, we're trying. Right now, what we have to do is we have to pay the steps that these employees are entitled to. That's the fair thing to do. If you disapprove this to come back to a special town meeting to do it, we're just wasting time because we're going to have to fund these steps anyway. I ask that you vote for this and the other steps for all the collective bargaining articles to come. Thank you.
Mr. DeFelice, you.
Mr. Moderator, I think at some point in time, the town meeting has to be shown a little respect from the people sitting in the front of this room. Now, we have rules as to how we're supposed to be
conducting these budgets and these, it was supposed to be hearings. Now, our chief executive tells us that they settled this Thursday. Obviously, it has not been looked at by the finance committee. And I'll echo what Bob said. It's about time we start doing things right and not doing things at the last minute. I served on this committee, and the same thing happens year after year after year, and it happens to us at town meeting. They dump stuff at the last minute while we're in session, and you're supposed to read this stuff within seconds. Let's stop this stuff. No, yes, we're going to have to come back in the fall. We know that because we don't have the police budget, we don't have the fire budget, so we're going to be back here anyway. And if we can't do it by the rules, then we should vote it down. There's no question about that. And see you in September.
Mr. Feaster.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Joseph Feaster, Precinct 4. While I hear the sentiments of the previous speakers with regards to a process, what I want to bring to everyone's attention that there is a state law that talks about wages that have to be paid. And if you want to be faced with treble damages for failing, and this could also be contractual, and I don't know all the particulars here, but I know the wage law well enough. I'm dealing with that with a organization where I'm the court-appointed receiver. So I suggest to you that while we may not be happy with the timing, we may not be happy with the process, I think it is prudent for us to improve these monies that are due to these employees, because they rightfully are due those monies because of the contract, and furthermore, it will create a burden or an obligation that may be treble damages on the part of the town.
Mr. Gito.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the, I think it's the town manager who made these motions. Didn't we dismiss Articles 12, 14, and 16? And are they not in the same realm as the as 13 and 15?
The articles that were dismissed were dismissed because they don't require a budgetary action.
So they have no steps.
In the case of the police and the fire, there were some individuals that have steps, but it did not require an appropriation.
So you can pay for them out of the budget
Correct.
that you have.
Correct.
And that's for all three of those, 12, 14, and 15? 12, 14, and 16, excuse me, 15?
You're really only talking about two we dismissed. The other one would have been the non-union personnel. The non-union personnel wages are in the budget,
Okay.
as are the step increases for library personnel, superior police officers.
Okay.
And for the professional association employees.
So it's only the two that we need to deal with are the two that you have not, that are up for discussion right now?
Correct. And again, these are steps that were withheld, and there's a settlement put in place to the Department of Labor Relations, and these are the costs of the settlement. As Mr. Recupero indicated, these are the value of the steps for fiscal 15 that were not placed in the budget.
Okay. Could
Yes.
I just make a comment? You probably knew that you were running into a possible issue in terms of labor relations and legal issues well in advance of this. It would have been helpful if you had at least put on the table or on in our hands the money that you are asking for now. I mean, I understand the issues that you're talking about, but you probably would have had a little bit less blowback if you had done that.
If I can, had it been possible, we would have done that. We fully expected until late last week that we would come to you with settlements for these two. And unfortunately, that did not happen. And had they been settled, again, this part of the process would have been accounted for in their placement on the grid that town meeting adopted last year.
Right. I would just suggest that next year, if you run into the same situation, that you have the two contingencies laid out so that we all know what we're dealing with. That's just a suggestion, you know, I'm not running the organization.
No,
but
I would agree.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Colburn.
Pat Colburn, Precinct 4. I just have some questions on the legalities. I just got the paperwork for the settlement right before town meeting started, so I haven't read it yet. I'm just not clear at all what this is. Is this like a contract where town meeting has to approve the terms of the contract? Or is this a legal settlement that because it's been signed by the town, we are bound to honor the terms of the settlement? I'm just not clear what this is.
These are all different. These are part of, in contemplation of legal settlements that I want to be careful with my words. I had a discussion with town council about this. And actually, if I could defer to town council, if you would, can you characterize this better than I can?
Mr. Fair.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. What town meeting is voting on is just an appropriation, which is really no different than you do with any collective bargaining agreement. Not technically, even when a collective bargaining agreement comes before you, you're not approving the contract per se. What you're doing is you're approving the cost items, the appropriation that's needed. What these articles are looking to do is essentially appropriate the money needed, as the town manager indicated, that's needed for the step increases, which originally the town really was planning on a different route, and ultimately that did not pan out. So what we are left with at this point is appropriating these funds to deal with either pending or potential litigation relative to the step issues.
Through you to the previous speaker. So if my understanding is correct, this is like a contract. If town meeting does not approve funding for the steps for Thea and I will say DPW next, then we cannot go ahead and pay these people because town meeting did not appropriate. This is not like any other lawsuit where somebody settles it and we're bound to pay it. Town meeting has to approve the funding or we cannot pay the steps. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's correct.
Well, I can't speak to, I don't know what the state of the finances are per se. I'm presuming based on the fact that this article's before town meeting that there is not a readily available source to finance these two particular sets of step raises. So in that regard, you need the money to pay the steps. The steps are going to be paid. They have to be paid essentially based on agreements that have been reached. But the town is looking for the appropriation from this town meeting to fund those agreements.
Okay, so then we have to pay the steps. We have no choice but to pay these steps.
Right,
What we're here to decide is, do we appropriate the money to give additional money to cover the cost?
Correct. At this stage of the game, because of the settlements, the steps must be paid and will be paid, as Attorney Ferris indicated. The issue here is that in these two particular budgets, there are not sufficient funds to cover those costs in the budgets that were adopted, and additional appropriation will be required.
So in the case of police and fire, we have to pay those as well, but there is sufficient money in the budget so that we don't have to make any decisions.
Correct.
They will be paid regardless of what we do tonight because there's enough money in the...
That is correct.
Okay, I'm sorry I'm being redundant. I have to make sure I get my head around this as well. We are bound to pay the steps. The question is, are we going to approve this article tonight to give the additional funding to cover the cost of the steps?
Correct.
The steps will be paid regardless. So if town meeting does not approve this, as was suggested, and this goes to a special town meeting, my question is through you to the town accountant. Do we encumber a person's entire salary for the entire year at the beginning of the year, or could we go ahead, they would get their step raises paid out, but we couldn't finish the year because we'd run out of money?
Mr. Rowe.
We are supposed to encumber all full-time employees at the beginning of the year,
The entire year's
the
salary?
entire year. And then if there's anything left over, then we can pay out additional amounts based on the town manager's recommendations and contractual requirements. So, the larger departments, yeah, they would be able to cover probably some step increases, but the smaller departments, no, they wouldn't be able to cover those.
Okay, so then without
yeah,
approval
you have-
tonight, we wouldn't be able to, some of these departments would not be able to encumber the salaries for the entire year?
That's right, yeah. They were not budgeted for in the Article 11 budget, these steps. So this is additional funding to cover the payment of the steps. So we did not anticipate paying out the steps prior to, because we didn't have contract settlements for those. But, so this money would be additional to cover those steps.
Okay, then I just want to say welcome to our world. This is the position we're in. We get the information last minute. We approve it, and we give the people the money, and we allow the town manager to encumber the salaries for the year, or we take a stand and we say, no, we're not going to do this, in which case he can't encumber them, and some of the smaller departments won't run into trouble prior to a special town meeting. I don't know what to tell anybody to do. I'm in as much of a quandary as anybody else, and this is what we've been trying to deal with, is just push through and say, okay, what do we do? What is the best thing for the sake of the town? And I think in this case, what's best for the town is not necessarily what's best for town meeting. I wish we did have this information prior. I wish we could have had a finance committee meeting to discuss it, but the reality is we don't. So I think every person's just going to have to decide what they can live with in terms of a vote. Thank you.
Mrs. McNeil. Mr. Crimmins first.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Barry Crimmins, Precinct 4. In the interest of full disclosure, my wife is a member of Thayer. Having said that, as you all know, I have been a vocal critic during this year's town meeting of how the budget has been presented to us. I haven't been happy with the form. I haven't been happy with the substance. Having said that, as a previous speaker alluded to, I think if we do not approve this, the only people who get hurt are those people whose step increases would be withheld as a result of this. And as I said at the beginning, yes, my wife is one of them, but she certainly is not the only member of Thayer. But they would be the only ones hurt. Yes, I would like to see us get the information in a timely fashion. I would like to see us get the information in a manner that we can make an intelligent decision, as we always have in the past, and as I said previously, as I have the utmost confidence we will continue to do in the future. But once again, given the options of either approving this tonight or not approving this, and then having to wait and come back, perish to even say the term special town meeting. Maybe it's going to give a new meaning to the term special town meeting. But again, the only ones who will be hurt if we don't approve this are the members of Thayer who have worked hard, who continue to work hard, who do their job day in and day out, as the members of the other unions do, the firefighters, the police, the public works, etc. They have continued to work despite the fact that their contracts have not been settled. It is somewhat disheartening that it took what it took to get to this point. But that's an issue for another day. I would urge you, swallow hard, as I am going to do, and notwithstanding the fact that I think for a lot of reasons, as previous speakers and my sense is perhaps some future speakers may say, we're not happy with how it was presented to us, but in the interest of the bigger picture, in the interest of supporting our employees of the town of Stoughton, I would urge you to vote in favor of this article. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Recupero.
I just want to correct one statement that was made, and I think ties into a couple other things that were just made. These steps will be paid. The question is the source of money, which is why they're presented to town meeting right now. Thank you.
Now, I have one big question. I haven't got anything here as a formal written motion. And if you can write that down before the discussion gets over, it would kind of help. Mr. Laurie. No, Mr.
David Lurie, Precinct 6. I have a question to you, Mr. Moderator, about the 30-hour rule. When we get this information, does it matter whether or not that information comes in the mail or whether we get it from a prior town meeting?
The understanding of that 30-hour rule, when it was implemented 2 years ago, was one, to give us enough time on both the preparation before town meeting, and then the second part of that, if you receive it, unless this was a result of a prior session of town meeting, the motion would have to be deferred to a subsequent session. We're now down pretty much to the end. And somebody should have been tipped off, not ticked off, tipped off, that we were going to have a motion relating to this and whether we could iron out this before coming to this stage.
I could ask my question even more directly than that. If they had negotiated on Thursday and mailed all of town meeting the article that they wanted to get the appropriation funded, and we received that by Saturday, would that have satisfied the 30-hour rule?
I would have.
Listen, I get it, you know. The lawyers, they have to get together with the opposite side representing town hall employees, and they go right to the end of the line just because they want to get leverage, they want to do this and that in order to push it right to the edge and see if they could get the best possible deal, even if it's in... Now look, if the best deal is in our best interest, okay, great, they're doing their job, but I want their job done on time so that we could get this done and we could get out of here on time. But instead, we're discussing something that could have been announced to us within 30 hours. They could have run this chicken game, you know, playing chicken to the last second, and still announced to us on time to get us done with this, and we wouldn't even be standing here because we would have appropriated the money by now. But they didn't do that. So now we're stuck with them taking advantage of town meeting by running ripshot over us the way they've been ripshot over us with the entire process of this budget. And I'm not going to appropriate this, and I think it's absurd that they couldn't have done us the courtesy of giving us an announcement by Saturday of something they negotiated on Thursday. That's all I have to say.
Mrs. McNeil.
Hi, Pat McNeil, Precinct 8. So what you're telling me is that the step raises have been paid off for this year, and this is your step raises for next year. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So was this part of the negotiating strategy that the FinCom and the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, kind of the pact that they made as far as getting rid of steps? Is that what this is all about? Now we have a settlement?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr.
just to
Hill.
clarify, the Finance Committee has no role in negotiating contracts. I just want to be very clear
No,
about that.
I understand that you don't have a role, but I know that there was some meeting, at the last FinCom meeting, actually, that they had, it was mentioned that there was some pact between the FinCom, the Board of Selectmen, and the school committee in order to hold step raises so that step raises weren't going to be part of anybody's negotiations.
We didn't make any pact with anybody.
Okay, then we'll have to look at the notes again. But what I want to know is, does this mean the settlement was because of attorneys had said, or the state labor board, or somebody said that you had to be paying these? Or is it a settlement that you settled the contract?
No, the articles.
Mr. Recupero.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator. The article that you have is to fund the contract that we would have liked to have presented to the Finance Committee prior to town meeting and brought before this board to be ratified for funding. In this case, since we don't have a contract, what we're asking to do is to pay the steps, which we had to do in the prior fiscal year and presumably will in this coming fiscal year, because it's clear that we need to do that now.
Was it more, I mean, last Thursday is when it became clear? Was there something that happened on Thursday
Well,
that made it clear?
There's a whole lot of moving parts in all of these negotiations, I promise you that. And they're not all on the same track. So if we're coming before you to fund all of the steps for all of the collective bargaining contracts that we have, I hate to use the word coincidental. It's coincidental only so far as that we had to bring them all up at once, but they're not all on the same time track.
So when we get the meeting executive minutes, that we won't find that this is what you were doing, was making sure that we weren't going to be having steps for, I mean, we have our administrators making steps. We see it throughout our budget, the 2.5%, and Mr. Kelly got 2.5% for, and some. So I'm not quite understanding why at the last minute we're getting this number that we don't even have a piece of paper for. And it's, I mean, Thursday, we could have had as a body, had that information, and that's kind of like disrespectful to not have that to us. They're going to have to pay the steps no matter what. They're going to have to find another place to get it from. They're not going to be, since it seems like there's a settlement, that they're going to have to be paying the employees of the town. So they may have to find a different place to get the money. I'm voting against this. Thank you.
Mrs. Ayers.
Donna Ayers, Precinct 3. Is there a paper motion here someplace that we didn't receive that we should have had?
It's in process.
You're writing it right now? Okay. Will it include what unions we're talking about? Because as I came to the front, they were asking me in Precinct 3 what unions we're talking about.
Well, we're
What
only talking about
departments?
right now Article 12, which is, 13, which is Town Hall Employees Association.
Town Hall Employees Association, what's the other one?
Well, we'll be doing all four of them, right? Town Hall Employees, Police, Fire, We'll be doing Town Hall and Public Works.
Town Hall, Police, and Fire, and Public Works?
Excuse me. Just Town Hall and Public Works.
Town Hall and Public Works. Okay, how much are we talking about? What is the dollar amount on this?
Town Hall Employees Union was $44,883.60.
And the other one? Thank you.
So we're just on,
$58,990.29.
And how are we proposing to pay for these? Are these borrowing?
Transfer from free cash.
So that will come out of this?
I can't see what that is from here.
Stabilization. Okay, so we're going to get a paper document that's going to tell us what this motion is and how much and where it's coming from and who it affects?
We're submitting a written motion to the moderator.
Okay, thank you very much.
just make sure you have it in quintuplet. Mr. Ventresco.
Peter Ventresco, Precinct 8. For 9 years, in fact. Before town meeting, we always get these contracts, 4 or 5, 20 pages in each, so that's like 60 or 100 pages. 15 minutes before town meeting, the Finance Committee have to meet at room B205, I think it is, and approve all these contracts. It was a joke because you just don't have enough time to digest. You need a week or so to do it. So that's where this 30-hour come into play. So everybody gets the information 30 hours ahead of time so they got enough time to digest everything. Now, if we're going to make rules to go by, and then we don't follow them, then we might just throw all the rules out, or everybody go home and let them do whatever they want to do. I'd say vote this down so the next time they're going to make sure, both sides are going to make sure they get it here the 30 hours in advance. Thank you.
Mr. Curtin. No, you can't speak and do that.
Jim Curtin, Precinct 4. I am the president of the Stoughton Firefighters Local 1512 in town, so we'll put that right out there. I'm sorry. Oh, that's the first. Through you, Mr. Moderator, to legal counsel, Mr. Fair, I'm looking for a word, and I'm not sure. I want to make sure that it's said correctly. When the Department of Labor ruled against the town on these step raises, what did they use? Was it a violation of the law? Was it a violation of regulation? Was it a failure to bargain in good faith? How is that worded, sir? What am I looking? I'm looking for a word. I want to make sure that I don't speak out of turn or I don't put the wrong title on it.
What happened to Mrs. Snyder? Mr. Fair. You were dancing on the stage.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, there is no legal finding. I'm not exactly sure what Mr. Curtin is referring to with respect to whether Article 13 or Article 16, excuse me. There is no finding by an agency.
For the withholding of step raises?
Correct. This is what I had indicated earlier, was pending litigation. These were resolved, but there was no conclusive finding by any agency, court, or otherwise.
Okay, so for the 17 and a half years I've been a firefighter here in the town of Stoughton, we have never withheld step raises. Both sides have always bargained in good faith. They've continued through bargaining until we get a contract. Nobody strikes, nobody walks away, everybody continues services. And on the town side, the town continues to give step raises and honor contracts. I don't know who it was that decided that, hey, let's change this. We got a better idea. But that's what's causing the problems. I don't think that this should go through because I don't think it's properly worded, because what I'm looking at when I'm looking at Article 13 is to approve a collective bargaining contract. This is not approving a collective bargaining contract. This is a contract that was already agreed upon and has expired and is being continued through until the new contract comes through. So I don't believe that this is the right way to do this. Mr. Moderator, do you have a ruling on that? This says we're approving a contract. We're not approving a contract.
Well, you might be coming from the same view of why I raised the question in the first place.
Let me ask you if there's a better way of doing this, because I do believe that these people should be getting their money. Shame on the people who decided that they were going to change the system that has worked so well for many years. Some of them got raises. Shame on you for giving them raises when they're not doing the job right. So my question is, through you and possibly to Mr. Hill or Mr. Fair, whoever can answer this for me, are we better off not moving money into the FinCom budget and then have either the town manager or the Board of Selectmen go before the FinCom and ask for the extra funds to honor these contracts?
Mr. Hill, could you respond?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, to the previous speaker. So we've already concluded on the Finance Committee budget. We'd have to reopen the budget to do that. And secondly, we can't put money in the FinCom reserve for this particular issue without having a 2/3 town meeting vote to remove it from the FinCom reserve.
Okay, thank you. But again, I agree that these people deserve their step raises. I know that this was fixed with the fire department a couple of weeks ago, possibly even longer. It shouldn't have waited all this time. And in the future, I would hope that the town manager and the Board of Selectmen, whoever put these budgets together, would honor the old contracts until the new ones come in. We should have had the figures that were due. And if you came to an agreement with a contract and things had to be changed and they went down, then they go down. But there's no way in hell this should have come this way. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
First question to the town accountant. Do we have money in the account to pay for this? Which is roughly $100,000 in free cash.
Yeah, the funding sources would be
Free cash.
free cash for the general fund items and then the enterprise fund revenue for fiscal 15 for the enterprise
So
funds.
there's adequate money to finance it?
Yes, yes.
All right. From what I can see here, what they're doing is they're following the old contract. Since they haven't got a new one, they have to honor the old one. And they didn't want to honor it, but now they're being forced to do it. We got to pay it. The people deserve the money. They worked for it. The step raise situation, I'm not getting into the step raise situation. That's a whole other can of worms. But this is a continuation of the old contract. We got to honor it. So we've got to pay it. Thank you.
Mrs. Gover.
Laurie Gover, Precinct 3, move the question.
That's to cut off debate. Now, that's what Mr. Murphy's going to ask for, too. That's why to move the question means we're going to stop debate. However, they're making copies of what we're supposed to be voting on, and I think they disappeared off. I think it table till. No, well, they're coming. Wait a minute. Here comes the written out motion that was handed. Well, you can't make it because we discussed something that they've tried to put in. I will, right now, we do. Oh, by the way, do we have a few up here? Okay, on the motion to move the previous question, that's to cut off debate. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed. The motion to cut off debate has been made. Now, on the motion, and it says under Article 13 that the town appropriate $44,883.60 to fund step increases for the Town Hall Employees Association. And to meet this appropriation, why do I have, oh, okay, let's read it. $5,339.50 be raised from fiscal year 2015 Public Health Reserve and
I apologize for the handwriting, Mr. Moderator. It's fiscal 2015 revenue.
from fiscal year 2013, 15, okay.
People have always told me I should carry a typewriter around with me.
You're doing. You got now. Anyhow, let me finish reading this thing so that I make sure we're all on the same page.
He has that.
From the fiscal year 2015 public health revenue and $39,544.10 be transferred from free cash. That's the motion.
Point of information, Mr. Moderator, point of information. Somebody on this side of the room, and I forget who it was, it seems so long ago, asked for a ruling from council whether or not this appropriation is appropriate for the article, which is to approve a collective bargaining contract, which we are not
Now, you would
doing.
be out of order
So-
because you're talking, because we've already cut off debate.
But you never answered the question.
Lori, that motion is gone. This is the new motion that we're voting on. And this says to...
Right, but that's not what the article is. The article that's printed in the warrant is to approve a collective bargaining contract. It's not to pay step raises. It's, so the, well, I would,
What Mrs. Frankel, I think, is
I'm
is
asking is-
asking whether this is within the scope of the article.
is this within the scope of an article that says that we are to approve collective bargaining contract? That's my question. It was asked by, I thought it was Mr. Curtin, and the answer was never answered. That's important since there's another one coming up as well. The article in the warrant is printed in the warrant, and what this body was looking at was to approve a collective bargaining contract, of which there is none. Am I correct on that? There is no collective bargaining contract. And this is to approve step raises. Those are two totally different things, and I can't understand how they can be within the scope of the article. And I'd like to hear that from town council that it is.
Well, I'm going to defer to town council, but normally scope comes under the moderator's jurisdiction. I see, this is all you call, he's getting the big bucks, and I'm getting the little bucks. However, the only latitude that I have here to say it is within the scope, because it makes a reference to fund a step related to the contract negotiations with the Town Hall Employee Association. And so there is an agreement, and therefore I would rule it's within scope. And as far as any other issues, that's not to be discussed. We now have already cut off debate on this issue. Mr. McCrisky is not on the content. It's strictly on the procedure. We're getting ready to take a vote. We've cut off debate. Therefore, on the motion, what's your procedural question, Mr. Zaire?
Is it legal for us to take the public health money for this?
I think that's a very good question, because I agree.
They were in the budget.
Mr.
They're part of the
Mr.
people
Rowe.
being paid out. They're part of that union.
The question was, is it proper to...
Okay, I'm just asking because of the 9 years that I spent on the FinCom. I know that if you pull money out of the public health revenue, you can't just apply it any place. It has to go for a particular purpose. And because we didn't see this question previously, and when I was here, I asked this question, and I didn't know that this was a part of it. That's why I feel like we need to get an opinion whether or not we can pull money out of the public health revenue in order to pay this money. It would have to go directly to the visiting nurses or somebody like that. You can't just throw it in. It's not a general fund thing. Thank you.
Mr. Rowe, in response to that.
No, that's a good question. We do have members of the Stoughton VNA Public Health Fund who are members of the Town Hall Employees Association. So this is the amount that will be allocated to those employees. The remainder would be, you know, part of the general fund.
Now, I'm going to call for voice vote, but if there's any question or doubt in my mind, you know what the procedure is. No? Well, it's just a majority vote.
It's not about
On the motion, that is to vote to appropriate $44,883.60 to fund a step increase for the Town Hall Employees Association, and that to meet this appropriation, $5,339.50 be raised from fiscal year 2013 Public Health 15. Boy, the more I write over this thing, the worse it looks. 15. Public health revenue and $39,544.10 be transferred from free cash. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. I'll have, it's doubt in the mind of the chair. Will you all please rise and the chairman take count? All those in favor, please rise. Precinct 1. Precinct 1 is 4. Please keep it down. Precinct 2. Precinct 2 is 12. Precinct 3. Precinct 3 is 12. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 is 16. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 is 8. Precinct 6. Precinct 6 is 11. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 is 8. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 is 4. All those opposed, please rise. Precinct 1.
10.
Precinct 1 is 10. Precinct 2. Precinct 3. Precinct 3 is 4. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 is 2. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 is 3. Precinct 6. 6 and 1. Precinct 7. 3 and 1. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 is 6.
Mr. Moderator, I may have to make a correction in my count. Mr. O'Regan, did you vote for or against?
Why am I the only recorded vote in the room? I voted yes so these people can get paid.
He voted yes.
Does that change your count?
5. Is that a correction?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the new count?
Boy, good thing this doesn't need a two-thirds vote. It's 76 yes, 38 no, and 3 abstentions. Therefore, the motion carries. 76 yes, 38 no, and 3 abstentions. And that is 938. Wow. Now, all those in favor of taking Article 16 off the table, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Now, on the motion, I'm going to defer this to the town manager. Make the motion.
All right, Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate $58,990.29 to fund step increases for the Public Works Association, and that to meet that appropriation, $25,157.56 be raised from the FY 2015 sewer fund revenue, $19,726.52 be raised from FY 2015 water fund revenues, and $14,106.21 be transferred from free cash.
Mr. DeFelice.
Mr. Moderator, through you to the town manager, I think we all assume there's going to be a special town meeting in the fall because the contracts in general, the larger contracts haven't been approved. Why couldn't we deal with this at that time? In fact, we know we're going to be having a special. Why isn't such a rush to judgment tonight when we could be doing this at a special town meeting that we know we're going to have anyway?
Mr. Hartman.
As we previously stated, these raises will be given on July 1st, and that's why we're asking you to appropriate the funds tonight.
Also, is this seems, I don't know if it is, this is why I'm asking the question, this whole situation seems very similar to the situation we talked about earlier with the school budget. Seems to be a lot of similarities, and it seems that the chief executive voted on that contract to nix that contract. And it seems like it's very similar what we're doing here. And could I be told why it's dissimilar? Through you to the town manager, Ms. Moderator.
Mr. Hartman, can you respond?
There was no decision against the town.
What was the question?
My question is, what's happening here tonight on these
I
two
pay
ar-
attention. This is Eddie talking.
on these two articles seems very similar to the situation that the school committee had in which you took a vote to tie a vote so that
Actually,
didn't
they're
happen.
not similar at all, and I would point out to you, the school committee voted 5-0 to give raises, step raises, and I was present at that meeting, so there is no similarity whatsoever.
Okay. All right, I'd just like to say, as a lot of you, I've been a town meeting rep for some time. I think I started in 1983. And this is the saddest town meeting I've ever been associated with. We've had a new group of people tear the budget process apart, turn it upside down, inside out, so that many of us have had all sorts of problems dealing with the budget.
Mr. DeFelice, we've heard our sentiments on that. Let's
I
address.
just wanted to say one last thing, Mr.
You might be out of
Moderator.
order.
If we don't show some self-respect for ourselves, these people are
Mr.
never going to
DeFelice,
respect us.
Mr. DeFelice, I will remind you, under Chapter 39, Section 17, 3 strikes and you're out. Mrs. Ayers.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to know if the deficit in the employees' sewer debt that we owe them for the step raises exceeds the $25,157. Do we know that? Because we're pulling along the same lines as the previous point that I made about the public health. It happens again in this proposal that if you're taking money out of the sewer funds, you have to use it to pay sewer employees. Is what the town owes to the sewer employees, is that $25,157? Can we apply it to that?
The answer is yes for both water and sewer. The DPW union includes workers in water, sewer, trash,
Okay,
and
we
parks,
didn't
as
take
well as
out
the
more
highway.
than we owe them from those funds?
No,
if
those
you
are the
see what I'm
amounts
saying?
for the raises for those employees who are
Perfect.
assigned to those respective departments.
Mr. Laurie.
Dave Lurie, Precinct 6. I came up with my own idea for a last-minute motion, so I'm going to make a motion.
No, let's.
Well, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll keep it as an idea until I'm eligible to form a motion. We funded last year $25,000 for an economic development director. The job never got filled. We then this year funded an additional $75,000 for the same person that is a position not filled. Ironically, it's the same amount of money that both of these articles combined would actually cover. I say take $42,000 out of that $100,000 that we already have allocated and have the $58,990 appropriated out of that money to fund the Public Works Association. The money's already there, the position's not filled. How many years are we going to keep funding a position that's not there when there's obviously people who need it more than an economic director? If we needed an economic director, wouldn't we have one? We obviously need public works people. I say let's put the money where we actually need the money and not keep funding for people who aren't on the payroll yet. The money's there. We already appropriated it. I say we take all of this headache here and just take it from money that we already allocated. Otherwise, we're just expanding the budget first of all, the process stinks, but in the meantime, they already have the money. So now they're saying, yeah, but we want to create a bigger surplus of budget to be able to pay for these steps and all the other stuff that they call it. The money's already there. The money's there because we have positions not filled for money we raised. That's absurd. We obviously don't need that position. That's my motion. My motion is to take money already appropriated for a fictitious position called Economic Development Director and apply those funds to at least Article 16, if not for both Article 13 and 16. I vote. Let's reopen the budget because, look, we have very creative people who could come up at the last minute to bring motions to the floor of our town meeting. I'm a member of the town meeting. I would think that if they could bring a last-minute motion up, I think that I could break the rules too and say,
Mr.
yeah, let's bring a
Lurie.
motion up that's more sensible
Mr.
than the one that
Lurie.
they did. Yeah.
Mr. Lurie, unless, that one would definitely have to be in writing, all right? It's not an amendment to this. So therefore, at this time, unless you want to draft something on a possible reconsideration only,
I can't, I'm not eligible because I voted down Article 13 and I'm about to vote down Article 16. So I'm
you
not
haven't
eligible.
voted down Article 16 yet.
I haven't done that. Oh, so vote yes so I could reconsider it? I
Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do beyond that. So I will not accept, I will not accept, I think you may have a good suggestion
My motion was
there.
seconded at least 3 or 4 times.
Well, because I'm ruling the motion is out of order at this particular time.
Yeah, but this was out of order, but we allowed it because...
Because I made them put it in writing. And it's the only reason it's in order. And you don't, you have a...
All right, I'll put it in writing.
But meanwhile, we're dealing with the one that's here. Mr. Murphy.
Move the question.
That's the cutoff. That's the cutoff debate. Well, I'll read the motion again. Motion. That is correct, Mr. Murphy. And I will just restate that motion. All those in favor, first of all those in favor of cutting off debate, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries to cut off debate. On the motion, which is that the town vote to appropriate $58,990.29 to fund step increases for the Public Works Association, and that to meet this appropriation, $25,157.56 be raised from fiscal year 2015 sewer fund revenue. $19,726.52 be raised from fiscal year 2015 water fund revenue, and $14,106.21 be transferred from free cash. All those in favor, please rise, and the chairman will take account. You've kind of, I'll just make it clear. There was a motion on the floor, and there was a motion to cut off debate on that motion. I told him he could write it. I didn't say whether he's going to. Yeah. The warning here is, there. I was waiting for that historic occasion. It happened 100 years ago. Only the moderator's gavel hits a selectman.
He narrowly missed me on that one.
Half a gavel makes a better sound. All those in favor, please rise, and the chairman will take account. Right now, there is no motion from Mr. Laurie. The chair is conducting this meeting, and you're, Mrs. Gover, I will recite to you the provisions of Chapter 39, Section 17 of the Massachusetts General Laws that says, after a third warning, and I'm not going to verbatim do this, but town council can read the exact wording, that if the chair warns you after 3 times, you can be removed from this session. Therefore, I advise you, I have only had to ask 3 people to do that in my 20-plus years. If you want to be recognized, go through the chair, and right now you do not interrupt the voting procedure. Your motion was cut off, debate, that was voted, and now I have read the motion. What is going on up here will depend on what you do elsewhere. But right now, Mr. Ventresco, if it's any right. There is.
Mr. Moderator.
Right.
Mr. Moderator, you told that gentleman to write a motion, then you should have stopped anybody else from coming up to the podium.
I already advised him what town council just reminded me to advise you again. The proper place and time after we've taken a vote on something is under the provisions of reconsideration, which are to be taken before we conclude the last part of town meeting. So therefore, he can write whatever he wants, but it'll apply whether you want to vote for this or maybe in the future, something in the future. The motion that is only on the floor is the one that I had read before, which is to appropriate $58,990.29. And I will not read the rest of it. It's all in front of you. And again, all those in favor, please rise, and the chairman will take account. Precinct 1.
3.
Precinct 1 is 3. Precinct 2. Precinct 2 is 11. Please keep it down. Precinct 3. Precinct 3 is 5. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 is 17. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 is 9. Precinct 6. Precinct 6 is 7. Nine.
Mr. Moderator, I have to add one more to that one. I once again failed to notice Mr. O'Regan.
All right. You don't have to announce.
That's because he's so short.
Ooh. No, I'm gonna start again. And nobody, you give me a number, that's the number. All right? Precinct 1.
We had 4, I believe.
All right. Precinct 2. All right. Precinct 3. Well, I got 5, so 5 sticks. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 is 17. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 is 9. Precinct 6. Precinct 6 is 7. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 is 8. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 is 5. All those opposed, please rise.
Now, slow down, for God's sakes. 7, 8, 9, 10.
Don't make any.
10.
Precinct 1.
10.
Precinct 1 is 10. Precinct 2. 4 and 1. Precinct 3. 9. 9 and 1. Precinct 4. Precinct 4 is 1. Precinct 5. Precinct 5 is 1. Precinct 6. Precinct 8 and 1. 8 and 2. Precinct 7. Precinct 7 is 3. Precinct 8. Precinct 8 is 6. The motion is, the vote is in favor, 66 yes, 42 no, and 5 abstentions. So therefore, the motion carries. Now, the appropriate, I will remind Mr. Lurie that the appropriate time to address his thing is under reconsideration, but not at this time. Now, we have some unpaid bills. Mr. Hill. For your information, on the pink handout and on the white handout, it all depends which side of the paper you turn. Back of the pink. Suppose that's the front. Okay. Article 36. Mr. Gito, you got a question? And now you've already wasted 2 of them. Mr. Hill.
$5,008.75 for
For what?
unpaid bills.
On the motion, is there any discussion on these unpaid bills? Mr. Rowe? Okay. On the motion, which is to appropriate $5,008.75 to pay the following unpaid bills from prior fiscal years. from prior fiscal years, and that to meet this appropriation, $5,008.75 be transferred from free cash, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items that total to $5,008.75. And I will give you some advice that came from the Department of Revenue. The town owes a bill, and it's our obligation to see that it's paid. All those in favor, see, this is just a majority vote, right? It's supposed to be 2/3, isn't it? No? Oh. I actually forgot this one. It is a 2. 4, oh boy, I lost that one out, good. It's a 4/5 vote. Yes. Prior fiscal vote at an annual town meeting to pay an unpaid bill from a prior fiscal year requires a 4/5 vote. At a special town meeting, it will require a 9/10 vote. So therefore, if it's not unanimous to pay these bills, then I will have to have it recorded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There's no discussion, Mr. Soros, we've already cut off. All those opposed, I will declare it unanimous on a voice vote.
Do we have the number, Bill, for free cash?
Yeah, getting on the countdown. Article 37. Mr. Hill. Did we have a dollar amount in this?
What's that, Bill?
I may not have had. Oh, I got it here.
Yeah, Michael.
No. I need a motion to take this from the table, though. On a motion to take from the table, it was made by Mrs. Carrara. All those in favor of taking from the table? Article 37. It's off the table. Now, we actually need some numbers on this. I thought
2 or 7?
I thought we had something already distributed.
7, that's all right.
Did you have anything? I thought I did, but
Yeah, is
I
it
got
gonna
so
do that?
much crap flying around.
Where's the
me.
white sheet? I know, I need the white sheet to give it to him.
We're checking it out to make sure that there was, we have one for the other. I believe we do.
Yeah.
Mr. Rowe, did you have a motion specific?
Town manager will make it.
I do, Mr. Moderator. We move to dismiss Article 37.
Oh, after all that work.
Like this.
On the motion to dismiss, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, wait a minute. All those opposed? No. I'm going to declare it a vote unless you, 10:04. Article 38, we do have something. Mr. If 7 people want to challenge the vote. It's a motion to dismiss. I think, yeah, I got that one. Yeah, I had something. That's what I have here. The 9977718. Oh, I have a different number. Oh, okay. Now, where was this? 3407. Why do we need it? I'll keep this one, okay? Will you read that one? Mr. Hill, we did have something.
I'm sure you did. Is that what you get with it?
38, we're on 38. Mr. Hill.
Mr. Moderator, just a moment, please.
Because we did take some money out of this.
Here. And it's a net.
You guys agree?
We're ready, Mr. Moderator.
Go ahead, read the number you got.
Article
Read.
38, deposit to Building Stabilization Fund, $994,044.07,
And it's going to
and
be,
transferred from free cash.
this will also, to put money into the stabilization fund and to take it out requires a 2/3 vote. So if it's not unanimous,
The number, again, for the Building Stabilization Fund was $994,044.07 to be taken from free cash, transferred from free cash.
Mr. DeFelice, do you have a question on that?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through to the Chairman of the Finance, Committee. Before this motion, what's the current amount in that building stabilization account?
I'll defer to the town accountant. He has more accurate figures.
Mr. Moderator, the balance currently is $1,251,792.
Okay, so this proposal would about double,
125.
approximately double what's in there. Through you to the town, Mr. Mayor, through to the town accountant, if we did not put this money into this account, what would be the ramifications of savings on our tax bills next fall?
That would take a little bit of analysis to come up with that. And it would be up to the selectmen to, when they set the tax rate, to decide that.
Right, I realize that, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is we're taking $1 million to put into this second stabilization account, and then we're all going to be crying in the fall when the board cranks our taxes up. These are the things that, if we don't watch, these are the things that raise your bills in the fall. What we do here, you know, we don't think much of our tax bill. Then we look at them in the fall and we go, wow, what's going on? So my feeling is that we don't do this. And let's save a little money for the taxpayers. They've already got $1 million in the account, as was, over $1 million, as was previously stated. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, on the motion, and if it doesn't look significant, I will ask to have a standing count. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. I will say it's a vote unless there's 7 people want to. I will declare it is, I can do that, but I have to do one other thing. And I don't have to take a number, but I want to make a visual count. All those in favor, please rise. I'm doing this to cover my legal records. That's all this is for. I'm not asking for a count. I can see very well that it's more than 2/3. There is a statute that says I can do that. And it's approved. And it is now 10:10. We're getting down. Yeah. Article 39. He hasn't got here. Article 39, I recognize the finance chair. I believe the chart is on 175. The article is on page 104. If you look on page 175, you'll see Article 39, borrowing authorizations to be rescinded. You want to read that?
Motion.
Mr. Hill.
To rescind the unissued borrowing authorizations as printed on page 175 in the appendix of the Finance Committee report in the appendix.
Just enter into the record that these are three articles that were, two of which were from 2009 and one from 2012. The amounts are being remaining are a total of 150,000. I mean, 200,000. Is that correct? No, I'm not even. You look on the last column, it says 228. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's 105 and 95. It's 200,000.
Yep, okay. It is 200,000. I'm not into numbers at this time. Mr. Murphy.
No, I'm not going to move the question. Actually, there's a mistake in the article, and what it says is, as printed in the appendix, and it should be article references rather than appendix.
It does, it says Article 39.
Article 39, but that's in the article references, not the appendix. But anyways, as printed on 175.
Under the title, Article 39.
We got page 175, I'll go with that. That's not my point. My point being is, I went before the selectmen back in January. And one of the things is, I talked about this last year. If you go to page 14, 15, and 16, you see numerous articles that have been approved over the years. An amount of money that's sitting there that's not being used. And I spoke about this as being a sunset on these articles, that after 3 years, if the money's not spent by then, there should be a good reason. The other part of it is, at some point, it should come back before town meeting to get reapproved. The selectmen didn't agree with what I was proposing. They actually said it would affect our bond rating. And I don't know about you, but every time that you apply for a credit card, that affects your credit rating. If you look at all the money that we have sitting here, that affects our credit rating. All that money is sitting out there could be spent without coming back before this town. If you look on page 14, the fifth from the top, the $100,000 just sitting there waiting to be spent. If they haven't spent it, I'm sorry, 1983. If they haven't spent it by now, that money shouldn't be sitting there. It should be rescinded. They only came up with three items to be rescinded. When you have pages 14, 15, and 16, a lot more money is on there. Granted, there are things there from the past couple of years, but there's a lot more. I will vote for this, but I strongly urge the selectmen, the finance committee, to look hard. Look at all the money that's sitting out there in the books and start rescinding it. Thank you.
Any further? There being none, and no further discussion on the motion, which is to rescind the authorization of borrowing for 3 different articles as described on page 175. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I will declare it unanimous because we're getting tired. And it's a voice vote, and it's now 10:16. And this is 6:23. Now,
Take Article 2 off the table.
it's out of order. Article 2 is still on the table. We were going to do any reconsiderations before we do Article 2, because Article 2 is still before us. Mr. Coleman.
Eric Coleman, Precinct 5. I move to reconsider Article 34, which is on page 97.
Yes.
This Article 34 is funding for the Abandoned Housing Initiative, and the funding is passed, but the law did not pass, so we don't want to have $100,000 hanging around.
I need to know how he voted.
Yes, Mr. Coleman, how did you vote on that?
I voted yes.
And that was the prevailing side.
May I speak to that, Mr. Moderator?
Mr. O'Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bob O'Regan, Precinct 1, Board of Selectmen. I apologize for my voice. I'm afraid the maker of the motion misunderstands the nature of the Abandoned Housing Initiative, which was Article, forgive me, 34,
35.
and the article that followed it, which is Article 35, that this body did not adopt. They are not the same thing. Article 34, the Abandoned Housing Initiative, is, for lack of a better term, a regulatory approach to only abandoned housing, that is, dwelling units, to rehabilitate them, to bring them back online. Article 35 dealt with neglected and abandoned property, no matter what it is, and remediation or correction of that. That article failed. They are separate and distinct articles. If the maker of the motion to reconsider is moving to reconsider on the basis that the funding in Article 34 was affected by the defeat of Article 35, I respectfully suggest he misunderstands Article 34, excuse me, and so the basis of his motion to reconsider doesn't connect. So I'd urge the body to defeat the motion to reconsider because there's confusion in the motion. Thank you.
Any further point on that? This is strictly on this article. Mr. Lurie.
David Lurie, Precinct 6. It was late at night when the article for the abandoned housing was voted on, and it managed to pass without a lot of debate. Everybody was tired, just like they're getting tired now. It was the following meeting, and I'm just kind of recreating where we were when this was all going on. We came in and with fresh eyes on the following meeting, and there was a lot of vim and vigor in the room to discuss what was going on in the following article, which mirrors pretty much the way Mr. O'Regan has articulated it. And the vigor against that article was such in which I don't even think people realized what they were voting on the time before. But basically, our freedoms were being taken away from us because we were giving the authority to the town to be able to say, sorry, but we don't like the way your painting looks, how long your grass is, and so on and so forth. It looked like
Okay.
the article...
Mr. Laurie.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't want to rehash anything in
Well,
the content.
The bottom
You just-
line, all right, I'll get to the bottom line, I apologize. But the bottom line is that in the article that was defeated, people were recognizing that the freedom of the people who had buildings in town that were, you know, they couldn't invest enough money in or whatever, they had to go away on a trip or whatever, that those buildings are still the property of the people who own them, and that you can't just create a body that arbitrarily decides which buildings are going to be classified as something that they're going to take away.
Mr. Laurie.
By that. So on this article.
Mr. Laurie.
Yeah.
Do not talk about the merits. You only ask to be recognized on the reasons why you would like to or not to reconsider. Article 34.
Article 34 was voted because we didn't know all the facts until we were voting on Article 35. The reconsideration takes place because you hear more facts and you come to
that might be-
a realization that you need to reconsider.
Mr. Laurie.
Yeah.
That's enough.
All right.
All right?
If I may, Mr. Moderator, just respond, not designed to
That
get
might be
into...
all right, too. You gave your explanation. We're not going to rehash the merits of either of these articles.
I just want to point out to the body that Article 34 received its own separate, lengthy, detailed, thorough vetting by this body at some length, not at the last minute of the evening when it was adopted. The two Articles 34 and 35 are materially different, and I trust the body will recall how and why they are different and how and why it treated Article 34 one way and Article 35 another.
No. Somebody second.
The way they're different is not the same as how they're the same. The same is the fact that if you have an abandoned building, the town feels that they can take it away from you so that they could pretty it up and sell it and give you a lien.
Mr. Laurie, that only referred to Article 35. Now, only on the reasons why you want to reconsider. And I'm going to take from the town meeting time rules of order chart. It says to reconsider or rescind an article depends on the rank of whether this motion in the first place of the original motion, whether it's debatable. I'm allowing debate, but only to the extent of you have you got some new information? Is there any new information that you can regard? If either of you have new information, then therefore, there's no further need to, you have some new information, Mr. DeFelice, regarding? Ms. Walsh.
Tough luck, Ed. Cynthia Walsh, Precinct 2, I move the question.
Therefore, you cut off debate on the motion to reconsider. All right, and town meeting time says this is only a majority vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. I say the motion is lost. I don't have to take a standing count. Oh, I'm sorry. On the motion to... All right. I'm as rushed to get out of here as... Will we do it? Again, this is on only to cut off debate. Ms. Walsh did correct me, and so did Mrs. Carrara. On the motion to cut off debate, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Therefore, now, on the motion to reconsider, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. I will say that is lost. To reconsider. And that was 1025.
Motion to take Article 2 off the table?
Ms. Walsh, you did. Let's see, let me, yes? Well, I'm going to allow, because this has happened at this session. Normally, now I'm going to give you a couple of advice on that, Mr. Laurie, because this is a little different situation. On a motion to reconsider, I need another piece of paper here. All right, no, that's good enough. Stripes go this way like jail bars. On a motion to reconsider, in this instance, and I want you all to pay attention to this. Normally, this is a procedural motion done in an open town meeting. Normally, a motion to reconsider is taken to mean you have, one, new information that has not been discussed, and number two, you did vote in the affirmative. On the prevailing side, let me correct that, on the prevailing side. Therefore, do you have new information on that particular article we're talking about? Which was Article 16, right?
I have new information, but I do not have a vote in the affirmative.
You didn't vote on the prevailing side,
No.
so therefore you're out.
Will anybody reconsider the articles that were brought forward by the town, Article 13 and 16?
You're out.
Motion to take Article 2 off the table. Second.
On the motion to take Article 2, Ms. Walsh, let me get to the right page on this. No, yeah, I asked. Article 2. And this, yes. All those in favor of taking Article 2 off the table? All those opposed?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
No, don't do that yet. I want the motion to receive the reports.
What do we have to do?
No, don't quite. I don't want to come.
I move Article 2.
No,
I took it off the table. Now I want to approve it so we can get the
Town meeting.
expedite our departure.
Which is to approve. We have received and approved all the reports from any boards and town offices or any commission. Those are in the town report or the information that you received tonight. What's that? Will you please be quiet? Calm down. So, all those in favor of receiving the reports and accepting them as is? All those opposed? I will declare it unanimous.
Mr. Moderator, I move we dissolve this annual town meeting.
And that is, all those in favor of dissolving the 2014 annual town meeting? And that's at 10:30. All those opposed?